Matters Green Paper, published in 2003, looked to address the educational and welfare needs of children by proposing a more joined-up way of working for children's services. It argued that schools, with their daily contact with children, should be at the centre of this multi-agency approach. 4 years on, how far has this model managed to penetrate into the school system? And what's been its impact to date?
We actually see that it does make a real difference to that very important core objective of education attainment.
We'll examine the picture that is now building of how well ECM is working, from the research and anecdotal evidence now emerging.
Over the last couple of years, we've made significant improvements in terms of raising the attainment of youngsters. We've made significant improvements in terms of reducing the number of exclusions.
We go inside 4 schools, who are each finding their own ways to make Every Child Matters work for them.
This is a coffee bar area and administration area for early years education and daycare.
And it's a change that isn't always easy to achieve.
Sometimes it's an element of frustration because I want somebody to come in and deal with Emma who's having significant problems, and yet nothing seems to happen.
How do we really measure the impact the school is having on some of the most disadvantaged children in society? How do we measure their progress?
When the Every Child Matters Green Paper was released, it focused attention on the link between the wider context that the child learns in and educational attainment. But 4 years on, what is the evidence that this is proving to be true? Some of the earliest authorities to take up Every Child Matters were often the most deprived areas. For example, Blackpool, with unemployment 4% above the national average.
Blackpool became unitary authority in '98, and after a few years within the new authority, we realised that we had real challenges in terms of raising attainment and meeting the welfare needs of our children and young people. When Every Child Matters came along as a green paper, we saw the whole philosophy as a wonderful opportunity of bringing together 2 key strands in terms of teaching and learning, raising attainment of young people and helping them to achieve, but also trying to link into their welfare needs.
Collegiate High School Sports College, near the centre of Blackpool, educates 1,200 pupils. Wendy Casson is the assistant head teacher in charge of inclusion.
How have you done today? We have such a range of children here at Collegiate. You know, our catchment comes from the 9% worst deprivation wards in the country. And so we have to cater for a complete mixed bag, really.
Wendy used the impetus and funding behind Every Child Matters to help staff a Learning Support Unit, or LSU, in the school, and to forge links with external agencies, such as the police.
Drugs, I'm not sure whether you're aware of them all, but you might be. Oh, well, my friend's doing a bit of cannabis. You know, it's a vicious circle, and things escalate from there.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children there that would have been permanently excluded without a shadow of a doubt. There's a gentleman there. We had to remove whole classrooms because he refused to move. We had to remove 30 children out because he'd be standing on a chair, you know, verbally abusing people. And now the lad is achieving massively. He's a prefect. Now, if that lad 2 years ago, there's no way he would have been where he is now. And that's what we're about. Since the review, how have you been doing since then?
It actually found it helped quite a lot.
Right. Though the anecdotal evidence from schools that have taken up Every Child Matters appears to reveal a picture of success, there remains a substantial number of schools yet to engage with the ECM agenda.
There may be schools who may think that this is an agenda only for deprived areas, and actually it's not, because even in some of our most leafy, affluent suburbs, we have young people who are struggling with alcoholism, mental health issues, well-being and issues of self-esteem.
St Ives, a market town near Cambridge, has unemployment 2% below the national average. The only secondary school serving the town is St Ivo. They're in the small number of schools that started out on their version of Every Child Matters long before the Green Paper came out. The services they provide try and cater for the needs of all the children in the school.
He's quite old, he's losing his fur.
Assistant head teacher Simon Crisp has set up a range of provision, including an animal farm, for children to visit at break times.
It's definitely an opportunity for children who prefer to be in this kind of environment than out there in the playground. Children whose self-confidence might not be as high as others get a great deal from this kind of caring environment. So it's ensuring that we've got a wide range of activities that do cater for all the needs that exist in an 1800 comprehensive.
A key element of their Every Child Matters strategy was to bring in some additional staff focused on inclusion.
We've got 2 full-time workers. We've got an inclusion manager and an inclusion worker who work 5 days a week, plus another worker that works 2 days a week. And typically they would be working one-to-one with students, and the range of need from those students varies from students who have perhaps a very low self-esteem to students who might be presenting behavioural issues around the school, to high need students.
St Ivo's Every Child Matters work relies heavily on the funding they get as an extended school. And Simon passionately believes that you can't have ECM without extended services.
I think extended schools came out of the ECM agenda. The challenge for us was to look with those 2 parallel aspects whether there were gaps in our provision. So it was looking at what we already had. And what it's done in most cases is just give us the confidence to continue with providing those kinds of opportunities for children.
I'd think about it all the way home, and when I got near the corner...
Like Collegiate High School in Blackpool, their efforts seem to be paying off.
There's quantitative data in terms of looking at exclusion rates which remain very, very low compared with national averages.
Though the agenda is still in its early days, the 2006 GCSE results seem to show a link between ECM and raising attainment.
There's a full 5 percentage point difference in terms of the GCSE's grades A to C between the national average and those fully extended schools. So we actually see that it does make a real difference to that very important core objective of education attainment.
But despite this evidence of a positive impact, uptake of the Every Child Matters agenda remains patchy.
You've probably got a third of schools in this country who are really beginning to motor on the agenda, a third who are starting to take it up and become excited by it, and a third who are just beginning the journey.
But what can we learn from schools that have taken up ECM about the key factors that are crucial to making it work? Research so far confirms the importance of the leadership team.
Although we're going to see different approaches and different models emerging across the country as localities really get to grips with this, there is really at the heart of it one ingredient for success, and that's the school leader.
If the leadership isn't right, then it's very difficult to take people with you. And not only the leadership at the top, but leadership at all levels. And the ability for the leader to actually empower other people to take on other leadership roles to contribute to the whole.
So heads who are seeing this not as a bolt-on, but as an absolute bedrock of the vision they're building for their schools are those that have been successful in this agenda.
Within school, our leadership team probably has areas of responsibility that fit into the LEA plan. I think every child does deserve their little bit of sunshine. They deserve to come into school, and no matter what they're leaving behind, then they deserve to have the opportunity to come into school and learn.
The parents' feedback was very positive, but also just how impressed she was with the way the pupils showed off the work and actually talked about the learning that had gone on. She was really
Another common factor is the way schools allocate their resources between teaching and the wider support activities.
I would say it's probably about 60-40 in terms of the teaching staff budget, 60% in terms of directly related to learning, if you like, if you can separate it like that, and about 40% to supporting young people.
Schools that have begun to engage in this have begun to realise that actually it's not about teachers doing more, it's not about head teachers doing more, but it's about looking at workforce reform and how there are other people within and beyond the school who can engage, particularly in the extended schools agenda.
The level of engagement with the local community is seen as another factor critical for success. And this can include a conscious effort to recruit staff who come from the locality. like Wendy Casson at Collegiate High School.
She's Blackpool born and bred, and she understands the Blackpool scenario because it is different. You know, children in Blackpool do find life tough sometimes, and she understands that.
A short walk away from Collegiate High School in Blackpool is one of its feeder schools, Boundary Primary School. Head teacher Dale Harrison joined the school in 2004, when the school was in special measures. His philosophy was that to improve standards, the school had to cater for the needs of the whole child. Dale has also seen the importance of using staff from the local community and has put one person in charge of child protection and inclusion, Lavinia Anderson.
Good morning. So we're just going to walk over to Mrs Anderson, who manages the junior gate each morning from 9:15 and picks up any information that we need to know about prior to the children coming into school, so that they can their learning can take place as quickly in the school day as possible.
The children should be in by 5:02. I close the gate at 8:55. If they're persistently late, letters are sent home to parents. And if that doesn't work, then the pupil welfare officer is normally involved, and she and us work with the families very closely.
It wasn't necessary that it was a class teacher or even a senior teacher leader who had to lead our inclusion front. It was the most appropriate person, and as a consequence, Lavinia has the flexibility to meet the child's needs at a moment's notice. She would be seen possibly at a deputy head teacher level.
As I'm not teaching, I'm not a teacher, it works extremely well because I haven't got the responsibility of having to worry about teaching plans and everything else.
She takes a load off us. If we have any problems with a child or we're concerned about a child, we will go to her. If there's any background we need to know about, she will tell us that background. It makes it so much easier because you do now know where you're starting from, and you can empathise with the children and sympathise with them, and you can actually teach them.
Left. Which side should we be on? Thank you.
What's really interesting about this agenda is that schools are beginning to see all of the talent and all of the assets that there are in their local community. People who really want to engage with the school on this agenda run clubs, support extended learning, support all the 5 outcomes of Every Child Matters.
The community is a very important part of school, and the more they see you out on the estate, the better the relationships are.
So far, because obviously this statement will evolve.
On top of leadership, resource allocation and community relations, the other key factor identified as vital to making Every Child Matters work is the effectiveness of the links between the various children's services.